for over the last decade, I've been reporting about tech, and many entrepreneurs that I've met have tried working in their startups with big corporations, and usually they come out of the experience feeling it was not a positive one. Now, as a president of Samsung's Global Innovation Center, how do you plan to give them a better experience?
Well, I think that small startups working with large companies have always presented interesting benefits, but as you say, interesting challenges. And the group that I run is focused exclusively on working with software startups. So we see our role as helping to be a bridge, representing startups in the big company and representing Samsung to the startup community. And so we'll get into it, but that often entails really helping navigate and identify the right people and the right groups to speak with, helping set the agenda for interactions, helping mentor and guide in the types of meetings and the frequency of meetings, and then ultimately just trying to close, whether it's an investment or an acquisition, a decision as efficiently and as quickly as possible to get an answer to the startups as soon as it's possible.
Now, Samsung Global Innovation Center just opened its offices in Tel Aviv, the first offices out of New York City and Seoul. But you've been working with Israeli companies for a long time, and if I remember correctly, the first acquisition made by the Global Innovation Center was of Israeli company called Boxy. Would you like to tell us a bit about Boxy and what happened to it and other Israeli companies you're involved with?
So the group that I run, we focus on building, growing, and then scaling startups. So what we like to say is, if you have an idea, we can help make it into a product. If you have a product, we can help make it into a business. If you have a business, we can help take it global. And we do this by investing and partnering and also acquiring. And in the case of Boxy, it was the first of 11 acquisitions that my group has done on behalf of Samsung's, what we call the finished goods businesses. We have 3 divisions: a components division, a mobile division, and a consumer electronics division. And we acquired Boxy on behalf of our television business, which sits in our consumer electronics business. And the interesting story there is that the founder and CEO of Boxy, Avner Ronen, was actually a very good personal friend that I'd known for years, even before I joined Samsung. And it turned out to be the first recent startup for the television group acquisition that was acquired. And at that point, one of the things that we did for the company is institute a new approach, a new process for acquiring startups so that we could move very quickly, and something that we call a PMI program, a post-merger integration program, which is really about planning what happens after an acquisition and planning that as you do the due diligence on a company, because we look at the startup as not the final event, but actually in some ways the beginning of a new chapter. And so how do you ensure that the startup and its people can be successful in the new company, the larger company that's acquiring it? And how can we ensure that the acquiring company, in this case our television business, could reap all the benefits possible? So Boxy was incredibly important for us to learn about how to find that right balance between allowing a startup to continue to do what it does very well and to have a certain amount of autonomy and independence, yet still be close enough to very much influence what goes on. And I'm happy to say that even today, there are key members of the former Boxy executive team that are very influential members of the television software and services team. After the acquisition of Boxy, we supported them in making 3 acquisitions themselves to supplement their talent. And since Boxy, we've done, as I said, 10 more.
Cool. And Boxy was one of the startups among a throng of other startups that are trying to innovate and reinvent the television. Last night was the presidential debate. This is one of the first events that is broadcasted in virtual reality. But reading the experiences of users, you get the sense that the experience is still not mature enough, that they feel that VR content or virtual reality content is still not curated and that there isn't too much added value. Where do you see that going?
Well, as a group, we've been very excited by the potential of virtual reality for a few years now. And in fact, around 3 years ago, we identified from a strategic perspective what the potential could be, not just in entertainment and gaming, but in all different types of verticals and also in enhancing human communications and interaction. And since then, we've invested in a number of companies. We are obviously very important partners with Oculus and Facebook on this. But I think what you're referring to is very much the early stages of a new medium being developed. And there's going to be a lot of experimentation and a lot of learnings. And I think we're still trying to figure out what is the best way to tell a story. What's the best way to program an experience in VR? How do you curate that kind of experience, right? And so in the same way that when television first came, essentially it was 4 radio actors that stood around a mic and then they just televised it because they were bringing in best practices from the medium before. And I think what we have to do now for VR is say it's not just linear video, it's not just different camera angles, but it's a different way to provide an experience for people, to tell a story. And the debate is one example of experimenting, but this is why I'm very excited to work with startups in the space, because they'll push the envelope, and we'll see how quickly it unfolds.
Interesting. Besides virtual reality, what other areas are you looking into in terms of investment and acquisitions of startups?
So we're, because our devices, our smartphones, our tablets, our televisions, our digital appliances touch so many different types of verticals and interact with so many facets of our customers' lives, we like to say that we have an open mind towards many different areas, but particularly for Israel, we're very focused on cybersecurity. We're very focused on VR and AR. We've been spending a lot of time looking at all manner of AI, artificial intelligence startups, related startups. And for about 2.5 years now, we've been very aggressively looking at the IoT space and companies in it.
Okay, can you name a few Israeli companies that you're currently working with and what you're doing with them?
So our relationships with different Israeli companies, I mean, I should take a step back and say that Samsung as a company has been in Israel for over a decade. And there are other Samsung groups that have been in Israel. For example, we have as I mentioned before, a components division. And they have an organization that invests in startups and works with startups for their division. They're called SSIC. And we have a research organization that works with startups, and they have an accelerator program. And we also have a corporate ventures group that looks at later stage deals. So we work very closely with all these other groups. So we do the same in Silicon Valley. With respect to my group, we will focus on early stage software startups for our mobile and our consumer electronics divisions. We have invested in a cyber security company called Zimperium. We also have invested in a company called Interlude, which is our first real digital media investment, run by someone who's become a good friend, Yoni Bloch. And you mentioned the Boxy acquisition. Our new office, which is run by Eyal Miller, who's sitting in the front, we've instituted two types of investment programs. One is working with EIRs, so we'll support individual entrepreneurs as well as teams to provide a working space, to provide all sorts of resources and support. And then we have what you would consider a more traditional early stage venture fund, and so we're looking at a number of deals, and we're actually going to announce in the very near future our first couple of deals there. But we have our offices already filled with different entrepreneurs. And then if I could, one of the things that we've done in our office is we provide resources, no strings attached, to provide any manner of support, office hours, mentoring. We have a studio where different entrepreneurs can come in and create podcasts and webcasts for their benefit. And we do this just because we want to help contribute and support the entrepreneurial community here.
Okay, one final question about your personal mobile device. I saw on your Facebook page that you're planning to get the new Samsung Galaxy Note 7. So what device do you have currently?
Well, the device I have now is the Galaxy S7, which is fantastic. I think particularly in the US, people might have heard of some issues we've had with our Note 7. I'm not a mobile executive, and so I'm not the best person to comment on it. But what I would say to you, if you're considering a Note 7, is that we're very focused on creating the best experiences possible for our customers, and safety is a top priority. So we've instituted a replacement program for those Note 7s that were just recently launched, and that program's in effect now.
Great. Thank you so much, David. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thanks, Or.